The crystalline spires of Nerea Prime hadn't caught the light of their sun in decades. Once, they had sparkled like frozen rainbows, a testament to the architectural genius of the Nerian people. Now they stood dark and dormant, their surfaces dulled by years of cosmic dust and neglect. The towering structures still reached desperately toward the stars, but they no longer sang with the resonant frequencies that had once made them famous across the galaxy. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon, studying the silent cityscape below. Her dark eyes narrowed as she took in the scope of decay. According to the historical records, this world had once been a center of art and innovation, its people renowned for their mastery of crystalline technology and sonic engineering. Now, it was little more than a graveyard of past glories. Life signs are stable but scattered, reported Dr. Marcus Way, reviewing the sensor data at his station. Approximately 3 million Nerians remaining, mostly concentrated in the underground sectors of the major cities. Environmental systems are failing. They've got maybe 5 years before the planet becomes completely uninhabitable. Chen nodded slowly, her jaw tightening. This wasn't the first fallen civilization humanity had encountered since joining the galactic community, but something about this one felt different. The Nerians hadn't been destroyed by war or natural disaster. They had been systematically abandoned, left to fade away while their former allies turned their backs. "What I don't understand," Chen said, "is why no one helped them. Their technology is still centuries ahead of ours in some areas. Their cultural achievements alone should have made them worth saving." "Politics," Wei answered grimly. The Galactic Concord Act classified them as a declining civilization after their economic collapse. Once that happens, it's practically a death sentence. No trade, no aid, no diplomatic recognition. The theory is that it prevents stronger civilizations from wasting resources on lost causes. Chen's expression hardened. Lost causes. Right. Like we were supposed to be, when the first alien ships found Earth barely recovering from the climate wars. If the Ardeni hadn't decided to take a chance on us. She turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Park, prepare a first contact package. Standard protocols, but emphasize our own history of recovery from near collapse, and get me a direct channel to Earth Command." The Nerians might be given up on by everyone else, but they haven't met humanity yet. The next few hours were a blur of activity as the Horizon's crew prepared for their first direct interaction with the Nerians. They had detected the humans' arrival. Of course, their sensor technology was still sophisticated enough for that, but so far had made no attempt at communication. Chen couldn't blame them. After decades of isolation, why should they expect these new visitors to be any different? The first response to their broadcasts came not from the planetary government, which had essentially ceased to exist, but from a community leader in one of the underground cities. Her name was Vela, and her holographic image flickered with the telltale signs of failing power systems as she appeared in the Horizon's communications chamber. "We welcome you, humans," she said, her translator rendering her harmonic language into English, "though I must confess we are uncertain of your purpose here. Our world has little left to offer, and those who once called themselves our friends made it clear long ago that we are not worth the effort of saving." Chen stepped forward, meeting the Nerian's luminescent eyes. "With respect, Vela, we'd like to make that determination for ourselves. Humanity knows something about being underestimated, about being written off as a dying species. We're here because we believe every civilization deserves the chance to rebuild, if they have the will to do so." Vela was silent for a long moment, her crystalline features catching the light in ways that suggested deep emotion. "The will has never left us, Commander Chen. But we have lacked the means, the resources, and perhaps most importantly, the hope that anyone in the galaxy still cared whether we lived or died." "We care," Chen said simply, "and we have resources, knowledge, and a fair bit of experience at beating the odds. The question is, are you willing to trust one more group of outsiders, to take one more chance?" The Nerian leader's response was interrupted by a sudden power fluctuation that made her image waver dangerously. When it stabilized, there was a new intensity in her voice. Our environmental systems are failing faster than expected. Within days, the underground cities will begin losing life support. If you truly wish to help us, Commander, you will need to prove it quickly. Chen was already moving toward the door. Have your people ready to evacuate the most critical sections. The Horizon carries emergency environmental units designed for multiple atmospheric types. We can at least buy you some time. She paused, looking back at the hologram. This isn't charity, Vela. It's an investment in your future, and in a galaxy that's better than abandoning those who need help. As the human crew sprang into action, preparing for an emergency relief operation, Vela watched with an expression of wonder. The Nerians had resigned themselves to a slow extinction, their greatest achievements forgotten by a galaxy that had moved on without them. But perhaps, she thought, watching Chen coordinate the rescue effort, their story wasn't over just yet. Perhaps it was only beginning. The stars above Neria Prime had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had shone down on the planet's golden age, and they had watched impassively as it slid into decline. Now they witnessed something new. The arrival of a species young enough to still believe in second chances, and stubborn enough to fight for them. The silent world was about to find its voice again, and the galaxy would soon be reminded why the Nerians had once been counted among its brightest lights. The emergency environmental units from the Horizon cast a soft blue glow throughout the underground chambers of Neria Prime. 2 weeks had passed since the initial contact, and the human crew had worked tirelessly alongside their Nerian counterparts to stabilize the most critical systems. But Commander Chen knew they were still only treating symptoms of a much deeper problem. The crystalline matrix that powers your cities, she said, studying the holographic display that Vela had brought up. It's not just about energy, is it? It's part of your culture, your way of life. Vela's features shifted, and what Chen had learned was an expression of pride tinged with sorrow. The matrix represents thousands of years of Nerian achievement. Every crystal is tuned to specific frequencies that resonate with our biology, our art, our very consciousness. When the matrix began to fail, we lost more than just power. We lost our connection to everything that made us who we are. Dr. Wei, who had been examining the matrix's technical specifications, looked up from his tablet. The degradation isn't natural. These crystals should have lasted centuries longer. Something caused this. Our former allies, Vela said quietly. When they labeled us a declining civilization, they didn't just abandon us. They sabotaged key elements of the matrix, ensuring we couldn't recover on our own. They feared we might prove their judgment wrong. Chen's hands clenched involuntarily. The more she learned about how the Nerians had been treated, the more it strengthened her resolve to help them. But the task ahead was daunting. The human crew had expertise in many areas, but crystal technology of this sophistication was beyond their experience. We can't replace your matrix, Chen admitted, but maybe we don't have to. Dr. Wei, what if we approached this from a different angle? Instead of trying to recreate their technology, we adapt ours to work with what remains of theirs. Wei's eyes lit up. A hybrid system. It's never been done. But theoretically, the crystalline matrix operates on principles of resonance. If we could tune our quantum field generators to match those frequencies, you would risk your own technology to help us? Vela asked, surprise evident in her harmonics. The Concordat has forbidden any sharing of advanced systems with declining civilizations. You would face sanctions. Chen smiled grimly. The Concordat didn't think much of Earth's potential either. Sometimes the best way to prove people wrong is to break their rules. Besides, we're not giving you our technology. We're creating something new together. There's no law against innovation. Over the next several days, human and Nerian scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge in ways neither species had imagined possible. The humans' practical approach to problem-solving complemented the Nerians' deep understanding of harmonic physics. Slowly, a new kind of power system began to take shape. But it wasn't just technology that was being rebuilt. Chen noticed how the Nerians' demeanor had begun to change. Where before there had been resignation and despair, now there was purpose. They worked with increasing confidence, offering suggestions, taking initiative. The simple act of being treated as equals, of having their knowledge valued, was awakening something that had long been dormant. "Watch this," said Kira, a young Nerian engineer, her voice vibrating with excitement as she made a final adjustment to the prototype hybrid generator. The crystal at its heart began to pulse with a deep blue light, and suddenly the chamber was filled with a haunting melody, the signature resonance of properly tuned Nerian technology. Vela's eyes widened. That sound. I haven't heard it since I was a child. We had forgotten. She turned to Chen, her voice thick with emotion. You haven't just helped us survive, Commander. You've helped us remember who we are. The success of the prototype sparked a wave of new projects. Human engineers found themselves learning the basics of crystal harmonics, while Nerian artisans began incorporating Earth-based designs into their work. The collaboration went far beyond mere necessity. It was becoming a true cultural exchange. But not everyone was pleased with these developments. The Horizon's communications officer picked up increasing chatter from Concordat vessels in nearby systems. They were discussing the human interference in what they considered a closed matter. Some suggested that Earth's provisional membership in the galactic community should be reviewed. Chen received a priority message from Earth Command. Be advised that Concordat representatives have filed a formal protest regarding your activities on Neria Prime. You are ordered to explain your actions at a hearing. She looked out at the city, where the first new lights had begun to shine in decades. In one of the restored chambers, a Nerian musical ensemble was performing for a mixed audience of humans and their own people, the crystal acoustics perfectly amplifying their songs. This wasn't just about saving a civilization anymore. It was about showing the galaxy a better way forward. Send a response to command, she told Lieutenant Park. Tell them I look forward to explaining why humanity chooses to lift others up rather than watch them fall. And tell them, she smiled as another crystal spire lit up in the distance, tell them they might want to revise their definition of a declining civilization. The hybrid generators continued to power up across the city, each one representing a fusion of human ingenuity and Nerian wisdom. It was becoming increasingly clear that this partnership would produce more than just technological advances. It was creating a model for how different species could work together, how the strong could help the weak become strong again, and how sometimes the most important innovations came from those who were willing to ignore the rules of what was supposedly impossible. The Concordat delegation arrived with all the pomp and ceremony that advanced civilizations loved to display. Their ships, sleek, crystalline vessels that seemed to mock the Nerians' fallen state, took up orbit around Neria Prime in a formation that was as much threat as protocol. Commander Chen watched them from the Horizon's bridge, her expression carefully neutral. They're hailing us, Lieutenant Park announced. The lead arbiter requests your presence at a formal hearing. They've set up in one of the old Nerian assembly halls. How considerate of them, Chen muttered. Using the very chambers where they once condemned this world to death. She straightened her uniform. Tell them I'll be there within the hour. And make sure our data feeds are running at full capacity. I want Earth Command to see everything that happens. The assembly hall had been restored to partial functionality using the new hybrid technology. Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony as she walked past humming crystal pillars that now pulsed with the combined energy of human and Nerian innovation. The lead arbiter, a tall, ethereal being from the Tsenan species, sat at the center of a curved panel of representatives from various advanced civilizations. Commander Chen, the arbiter's voice resonated with artificial gravity. You stand accused of violating Concordat Directive 147, unauthorized technological assistance to a declining civilization. How do you respond? Chen stood before them, hands clasped behind her back. I reject the premise of your accusation. The very term declining civilization is a political designation, not a scientific one. The Nerians didn't decline. They were pushed. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Arbiter's luminescent features darkened. We are aware of humanity's emotional approach to interspecies relations, but there are reasons for our protocols. Resources invested in failing societies are resources wasted. The galaxy's stability depends on strong civilizations becoming stronger. And who decides which civilizations are worthy of becoming stronger? Chen challenged. The same powers that deliberately sabotaged Nerian technology to ensure they couldn't recover. Oh yes, she added as the murmurs grew louder. We found evidence of the systematic destruction of their crystal matrix. Would you like me to present it? A new voice cut through the tension. I would. Vela stepped into the chamber, followed by Dr. Wei and several other human and Nerian scientists. In fact, I believe the timing is perfect for a demonstration. At her signal, Wei activated a holographic display. It showed detailed scans of the damaged crystal matrix, alongside data from the new hybrid systems. The pattern of degradation was deliberately engineered, Wei explained. Specific frequencies were targeted, frequencies that would cascade through the entire network. It wasn't entropy. It was sabotage. The Arbiter's voice turned cold. These accusations are irrelevant. The directive stands. Humanity must cease all assistance to Neria Prime immediately, or face sanctions. With respect, Chen replied, though there was steel in her voice. We decline. You have no choice in the matter. The Concordat's authority. The Concordat's authority is based on the premise that you act for the greater good of all species. Chen interrupted. But what we found here suggests otherwise. You're not preserving galactic stability. You're enforcing galactic hierarchy. She gestured to the restored chamber around them. Look at what we've achieved in just weeks of cooperation. The Nerians aren't declining. They're innovating, creating new technologies by combining their knowledge with ours. They're proving that your entire system of classification is flawed. And dangerous, Vela added, stepping forward. How many other civilizations have you condemned to extinction? How many others could have survived, could have contributed to the galaxy's growth if they'd been given the chance we almost lost? The Arbiter rose, towering over them. This is your final warning, Commander. Withdraw your support, or the consequences will be severe. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You should know something about humans, Arbiter. We don't respond well to threats, and we have a rather extensive history of standing up to bullies who think they can decide who deserves to survive and who doesn't. You would risk war? One of the other delegates asked, incredulous. We would risk anything to do what's right, Chen replied. But ask yourself, what would a war over this reveal to the galaxy? That the mighty Concordat feared the recovery of a declining civilization so much that they were willing to fight to prevent it. How many other worlds would that make question your judgments? The chamber fell silent. The human commander's words had struck at something deeper than just this conflict. They had exposed the fragility of the Concordat's moral authority. You have allies, the Arbiter said quietly. They will not support this defiance. Our allies respect us precisely because we stand by our principles, Chen countered. And after seeing what we've achieved here, they might start questioning why they've accepted your classifications for so long. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. We've begun sharing our findings with other Earth vessels. They're investigating several other declining civilizations. I wonder what they'll find there. The threat was clear. This wasn't just about Neria Prime anymore. Humanity was challenging the very system that had allowed powerful civilizations to decide the fate of others. The Arbiter watched them go, knowing that a line had been crossed. The galaxy's comfortable hierarchies were about to be shaken. Outside the chamber, Vela touched Chen's arm. They will retaliate, she said softly. You've made powerful enemies. Chen nodded. Yes, but we've also shown them something they didn't expect. that humanity won't play by rules designed to keep worlds like yours down, and that's going to make them very, very nervous. Above them, the crystal spires of the assembly hall resonated with new frequencies, the combined harmonics of human and Nerian technology. It was a sound that represented more than just technological advancement. It was the sound of change coming to the galaxy, whether the Concordat liked it or not. The Concordat's response came 3 days later. It wasn't the direct military assault Commander Chen had expected. They were subtler than that. Instead, a flotilla of peacekeeping vessels entered the Nerian system, claiming authority to secure potentially dangerous technological developments. From the Horizons Bridge, Chen watched as the massive ships took up strategic positions around the planet. "They're trying to force our hand," she said to her assembled officers. "Make us either back down or throw the first punch." "Commander," Lieutenant Park called out, "we're receiving reports from the surface. Concordat inspection teams are attempting to land in several major cities. They're citing regulatory authority over crystal matrix technology." Dr. Wei looked up from his console. "They're after our hybrid generators. If they can prove the technology is destabilizing, they'll have justification for full intervention." Chen's jaw tightened. This was the moment she'd been preparing for, but the reality of it still felt heavy. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the Concordat has initiated hostile actions under the guise of inspection. Request immediate support." She turned to her tactical officer. "And get me Vela. We need to coordinate our response." The Nerian leader's hologram appeared moments later, her crystalline features set in grim determination. "My people are already moving the most critical equipment into the deep shelters. But, Commander, some of them want to fight." "And so we shall," Chen replied, "but not the way they expect. Dr. Wei, tell her about Project Resonance." Wei stepped forward, bringing up a complex diagram. "We've been studying the way Nerian crystal technology interfaces with human quantum systems. There's a unique harmonic pattern that emerges when they work together. If we can amplify that pattern, we can create a defense shield unlike anything the Concordat has seen." Vela finished, her eyes widening with understanding. "Our crystals generating the base frequency, your quantum field generators providing the power." "Exactly," Chen nodded. "But we'll need every operational crystal node in the city working in perfect sync. Can your people manage that?" "They've been waiting centuries to show what they can really do," Vela answered, a note of fierce pride in her voice. "We won't fail." The next few hours were a blur of activity. As Concordat ships descended toward the city, human and Nerian technicians raced to connect their hybrid systems into a vast network. The crystalline spires that had been dark for so long began to pulse with new energy, each one adding its voice to a growing chorus of power. The first Concordat landing party found their path blocked not by weapons, but by a shimmering wall of energy that sang with crystalline harmonics. When they attempted to force their way through, the barrier responded by absorbing their energy weapons' fire and turning it into pure resonant frequency that strengthened the shield even further. "Impossible," one of the Concordat commanders transmitted. "This level of technological integration shouldn't be achievable by a declining civilization." "That's rather the point," Chen replied over the comm channel. "Perhaps it's time to reconsider your definition of declining." But the Concordat wasn't finished. Their ships in orbit began charging weapons, preparing to overwhelm the shield through sheer force. Chen watched the energy readings climb with growing concern. The hybrid defense system was untested against this level of assault. That's when the first human reinforcements arrived. The Earth ships emerged from hyperspace in a precise formation, led by the massive EES Defender. They took up positions around Neria Prime, their own shields harmonizing with the planet's defenses, thanks to modifications based on Chen's transmitted data. "Concordat vessels," Admiral Zhang's voice boomed across all channels. "You are engaged in an unauthorized attempt to suppress technological innovation and cultural exchange. Withdraw immediately." "The Concordat's authority in these matters is absolute," came the reply. "Humanity's protection of this declining world is a violation of galactic law. No, Zhang answered, it's a challenge to an unjust law. And you should know that we're not the only ones who feel this way. As if on cue, more ships began appearing, vessels from other worlds that had been watching the situation closely. Some were from civilizations that had their own doubts about Concordat policies. Others represented worlds that had nearly been classified as declining themselves. "Commander," Park reported, excitement in his voice, "I'm picking up transmissions from at least 12 different species. They're all offering support." Chen smiled. The Concordat had made a crucial mistake. By trying to make an example of humanity's defiance, they had instead created a rallying point for every civilization that had ever questioned their authority. The Concordat ships held position for several tense minutes before their commander spoke again. "This incident will be reported to the full council." "Good," Chen replied. "While you're at it, you can report that humanity is formally petitioning for a review of all declining civilization classifications. We've already gathered considerable evidence of deliberate suppression." The Concordat fleet began to withdraw, their departure as carefully measured as their arrival had been. But everyone knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning of a larger confrontation. As the threat receded, Chen looked out at the city below. The crystalline spires were glowing brighter than ever, their song a perfect harmony of human and Nerian technology. What they had created here wasn't just a defense system. It was proof that cooperation between species could produce wonders that neither could achieve alone. "Commander," Vela's hologram appeared, her features radiant with emotion. "My people, we had forgotten what it felt like to stand tall, to fight back. You've given us more than protection. You've given us our pride again." Chen shook her head. "You always had it. You just needed someone to remind you." And now she smiled, looking at the departing Concordat ships. "I think you've helped remind the galaxy of something important too." "What's that?" "That no civilization is truly declining as long as it has the will to rise again. And that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or politics. It's the simple act of refusing to abandon those in need." 6 months after the Concordat's failed intervention, Neria Prime had become a symbol of change throughout the galaxy. The crystalline spires no longer stood as monuments to a fallen civilization. They were beacons of innovation, their hybrid technology a testament to what could be achieved when species worked together as equals. Commander Chen stood in the newly restored Grand Assembly, where representatives from 24 worlds had gathered. Some were from powerful civilizations that had grown disillusioned with Concordat policies. Others were from worlds that had been labeled declining, now seeking their own path to recovery. All had come to witness something unprecedented: the formal recognition of the Human-Nerian Cooperative Alliance. "It wasn't just about saving one world," Chen said, addressing the assembled delegates. "It was about challenging the idea that any civilization is beyond hope, that any people deserve to be abandoned simply because they've fallen on hard times." Vela, standing beside her at the podium, continued. "The Concordat system of classification was built on fear that helping others might weaken the strong. But what we've proven here is that true strength comes from lifting each other up, from combining our knowledge and capabilities in new ways." The evidence was all around them. The assembly hall itself was powered by technology that hadn't existed 6 months ago. The hybrid crystal matrix had evolved far beyond its original design, incorporating innovations from several other species who had contributed their own expertise to the project. Dr. Wei, now heading the new Interspecies Technology Exchange, presented the latest data. The efficiency gains from combining different technological approaches have been extraordinary. The Nerian's crystal harmonics, when integrated with quantum systems from Earth and energy distribution methods from the Killer Republic, have produced power generation capabilities that exceed anything previously achieved. But the technical achievements were only part of the story. Throughout the hall, representatives from different species mingled freely, sharing ideas and forming new connections. The rigid hierarchies that had dominated galactic society for centuries were beginning to crack. The Concordat's Council is meeting next week to review their classification system, Lieutenant Park reported, checking his datapad. Early indicators suggest they'll be adopting major reforms. Too many worlds have seen what's happened here. They can't maintain the old order anymore. Chen nodded, remembering the tense standoff that had led to this moment. They fought so hard to prevent change, they didn't realize they were fighting the future itself. How many worlds might achieve similar transformations once they're given the chance? The answer was already becoming clear. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of other declining civilizations beginning their own resurrections, often with help from unexpected allies. The Nerian example had sparked a movement that couldn't be contained. A young Nerian engineer approached Chen, her crystalline features bright with excitement. "Commander, we've just completed the first test of the Deep Space Resonance Network. It worked perfectly. The hybrid crystals can maintain quantum coherence across interstellar distances. We can start building the new communications grid whenever you're ready." This was perhaps the most profound change of all. The Nerians weren't just recovering their past glory. They were pushing beyond it. Their technology, enhanced by human innovation and contributions from other species, was opening up possibilities that no one had imagined before. "You know," Vela said quietly to Chen as they watched the proceedings, "when you first arrived, my people had forgotten how to hope. We'd accepted our fate as a declining civilization. But you humans, you taught us something important." "What's that?" "That the future isn't written by those in power. It's written by those who refuse to accept limitations, who see possibility where others see only decline." She gestured to the bustling assembly hall. "Look at what that simple truth has created." Indeed, the scene before them would have been unthinkable just months ago. Representatives from formerly declining worlds were confidently presenting their own innovations. Powerful civilizations were engaging with them as equals, eager to learn and share. The barriers that had kept species isolated were dissolving. "Commander," Wei called out, "the Ardani delegation wants to discuss implementing hybrid crystal technology in their medical facilities. They think it could revolutionize their healing techniques." Chen smiled. The Ardani had been among the first to help Earth when humanity was struggling to recover from its own dark times. Now here they were, seeking to learn from the very civilization they had once helped save. The circle was complete. As the day drew to a close, Chen stood at one of the crystal windows, looking out at the city. The spires sang with new harmonics, their light reaching up to touch the stars. But now they weren't reaching in desperation. They were reaching in triumph, in innovation, in hope. "You know what the best part is," she said to Vela, who had joined her at the window. "This is just the beginning. Every world out there that's been told they're declining, every civilization that's been abandoned, they're all going to hear about what happened here. And they're going to realize something powerful." "What's that?" "That as long as there are humans in the galaxy, no one has to face the darkness alone. And that sometimes, the civilizations everyone else has given up on are the ones most capable of changing everything." The crystal spires pulsed with light, sending their message out to the stars. It was a message of hope, of defiance against limitation, of the power of reaching out to help others rise. And in the grand assembly hall behind them, the future of the galaxy was being rewritten, one connection at a time.